Hi, I'm Robin Retallick from the Law of Attraction Club, and this is an update on what's happening on the channel here. In the club, we've started using Google Hangouts on Air as our principal conference call vehicle. To do that, we had to get in line with where Google's going, so we've created the Law of Attraction Club page, and out of that you automatically get created a Law of Attraction Club YouTube channel, new channel. And Google as yet has not provided a way of merging channels, although it's still possible, maybe. So what we've done here is, in our first Hangout we had a few problems with dropouts and voice problems as we were just learning how to do this. And so we had to edit that video, and what I've done there is I'm going to put the edited version on this channel together with this explanation, just to keep you in touch with what we're doing. And as you'll see below, there's some links there to our new YouTube channel and to our blog page on our website, where you can get a list of everything that we're doing. These new Hangouts on Air are sort of a video book, and the first chapter was, which this video is about, first chapter was the absolutes, those things that are fundamental to who you are and the way the law of attraction works. And it's important to know those because everything else is a choice, but those are not. Anyhow, here's the video, and thanks for watching, and we'd love to have you join us. Welcome everybody to Law of Attraction Club. Here we are in a new adventure here, trying something different, and we're on Google Hangouts on Air. And we conceived this as the beginning of this book that I've been nagging at myself to write for some time, which is the sort of story of our community and the story of how we got to where we are and so on. And then Google Hangouts on Air came along, and that seemed to be an idea that coincided with maybe doing videos. And so here we are. We're doing our vBook, Chapter 1. And of course, Chapter 1 was a good opportunity to start from the basics. How did we get to where we are, and where are we, and what are we doing about all of this? Here we are trying to answer life's big questions, which is, I guess, something that all of us get to at some point, something that all of us come to, these questions, which is, who are we, and who am I, and what am I doing here? And once I've got that out of the way, how do I use that knowledge to participate in this game in a way that's a little different? And so here we are in this, if you like, this game of life on Earth. So let's talk today about a little history, if you like, of how we got to where we are. And I've got with me the two other folk who are two other people, my two friends who are also channeling in this community, and I'm going to get them to give a little bit of their history and how they got there too. And then we'll talk about those absolutes we're talking about, and by that I mean the fundamentals of who we are and all that stuff. Then get into a little detail about the law of attraction, because there is a little bit of discussion about what that law actually means. And for some reason, for good reasons, I guess, logically, some people start to water it down. And as we've found out, it's not a function of needing to water it down. It's a function of needing to expand it in terms of its scope to understand truly what's going on. And then if we get some time at the end here, we'll get to some questions, comments and experiences from all of you, and that'll be great. So firstly, for me, a little history. I guess I went through an early experience with Christianity, and then ended up in the middle part of my life with pretty much not knowing, thinking that wasn't it, and not knowing quite what it was. And then I hooked up with Eva, who is my other half here, and we got into a few things, meditation, did some work with Deepak Chopra and a lot of other things. And it was in about 1990 that Eva, a bit earlier than that actually, but around about then, that Eva came across Abraham being channeled by Esther Hicks.
and she left the CD in the car one day when I was driving and I was listening to it. And I was skeptical at first, but then it started to make sense. At least it was a logical, I thought, logical explanation of the way things were, and it sort of rang bells for me. And that was the beginning of my Abraham period, if you like, which was 18 years, which was led up to the formation of this community. So 2,000 plus, I estimate, maybe more, maybe considerably more than that, but at least 2,000 hours of me listening to their audios, being in their seminars, being in the hot seats. And a lot of questions got answered, but some questions remained. And then I hooked up with another gal who was supposedly channeling Abraham. That was out of Florida. And then I hooked up through her to Eva Farrell, who is out of South Africa. And we decided to form this community. We thought, well, we could do the same sort of thing because she was channeling Abraham. We renamed them Terah to avoid any conflict with the Hickses. And we thought we would do the same thing, which is have some question and answer sessions for an audience of people, but we would do it by telephone rather than via live conferences. And we thought we knew a fair bit about the law of attraction back then, but I will tell you that since 2008, for me, what I've learned since then has blown away what I had learned up to that point. When we got into this, that I really started to understand the ramifications of some of what we were getting into. We sort of breached the lagoon, which was being in the Abraham world, and now we were heading into the world of everybody that was channeling and spiritual and whatever. And there was a couple of breakthroughs we had. One was, of course, the fact that I was confused about all of these different stories. There's tons of people all out there, each having a different story about the way things were, and many of them in this spiritual world, many of them channeling, and all seemed very genuine and sincere and whatever. So I said to Terah, what's the hell's going on here? And they said, well, of course, each person tracks into their experience what they believe. And that applies not just to the physical world, but to the non-physical world. And so it was, for me, really interesting to then understand that it is something that we all choose. In other words, our world conforms to that which we've chosen to believe. And that applies to everything. That applies to the way we deal with the world, the way we experience the world, and that's the physical world and the non-physical world. So that was the first of a, if you like, a big breakthrough. Someone's trying to Skype me here. I can't see it, so I can't respond to it. But you could put it in the chat box on the screen if you can see it. I'll be happy to respond. So then, as I said, with the Abraham thing, a lot of the way things got explained, but there was one big anomaly, and that is, here we are. If we're in this world together here, and we're all able to create the world we want, but we're all in the world together, and everyone can create the world they want, here's a paradox, because if I can have it any way I want, then you can have it any way you want. And if you want it a different way to me, then how can that be? How can that be? So I think that was obviously part of the question and answer to Terah. And so I got into that again. At this point, still with Nina, and the answer was go read up on quantum physics. And so I did. And it wasn't so much that getting into the details of quantum physics, because that's a series of beliefs, and that's individual too. But what it did point me to was the concept of multiple versions. And Terah basically said, bingo, you got it. And so then I got to understand the real absolute thing here, which is that it is not one version of the world, although it looks like one version and we're all sharing it. It certainly has that appearance. But actually what I'm creating is my version, and I'm attracting into that all the things that are a match to me, even as you are. And if you are a match to me, then you'll intersect with me, and so it goes on. And so these were a couple of big breakthroughs that we had. And that led us to really expand to what are the things that are independent of the story that we all have. In other words, what then lies at the basis of everything? And that's when we got to the absolutes. And I'm going to let Tara talk about that in a minute. And but in the meantime, perhaps I've got Mary Beth and Rachel with me on this call. And I was going to invite them to give a short bit of their history about all of this. So, Mary Beth or Rachel, do you want to unmute and talk a little?
Yeah, okay. Just real briefly, I had maybe a similar, in a way, background to Robin in the Christian sort of upbringing, but sort of noticing as life went along that I really couldn't explain logically why some things were sort of turning out the way they were, and noticing that I was efforting a lot, trying a lot, working hard. Things were coming about, but it just seemed that the effort put forth was great. And I thought, life just feels really busy, and there's got to be a way here to sort of bring this all into some kind of order and to make sense. And that was when in 2007 I got involved with meditation, Tai Chi, and really felt, particularly with meditation, that I was connecting with something, but I didn't, it felt good. There was no words, but it just felt really, really good, and I felt clearer. And then I sort of stumbled upon, so to speak, Abraham Esther Hicks, and started listening and started watching some YouTube, and just really listening, ordering audio, and thinking, this is really bizarre, but this really makes a lot of sense to me. And then I again stumbled upon Robin and Nina, and started joining some of those calls and listening and saying, that's something, this is something I'd really like to do. I'd like to be able to bring that through myself. I'd like to be able to connect myself. And not that I wasn't enjoying the calls, I really was, but I thought, if anybody truly can do this, then I can too. And we started putting together some opportunities for people to get together, buddy calls, and so on. And I started reading some more about channeling and doing some more meditation and talking more with Nina and Robin, and just really intending to connect. And I did. And it wasn't sort of all of a sudden. It was a little bit at a time, until I really was trusting what I was feeling and what was happening. And that sort of led to the calls and being a partner here with Tara and with the whole club, and bringing forth that greater perspective, larger perspective. And that's it for a nutshell. We've been here ever since, and it's great. It's great.
It has been, great's a pretty good word. So, Mary Beth.
All right. I always love hearing these stories, because when you tell them, you always add something else and that I didn't know before. It's interesting. So I started off as a young child in a Christian church as well, but mine was so simple. There was no dogma at all as far as I can tell. I mean, very, very little. And I did a lot of singing there. I was into singing when I was young, and so for me it was about singing and just opening the heart, and that was it. So I enjoyed that. My childhood, however, well, we all know about how we talk about that now, but from my point of view, when I was a child in the past that's gone, it was not very good. And so I manifested a lousy one. Let's just put it that way. So since then, it's all become wonderful because it's become something that I've really taken the opportunity to see in a new way and kind of grow from. So when I went away to art school, I started reading Krishnamurti and Yogananda and all kinds of things like that. And then when I first got married, we were studying the Urantia book and A Course in Miracles. And then after that, I spent 10 years learning to meditate, and I happened to meet Eva in this meditation group and got to know her. And eventually, after all the meditation years in that group, I took some courses from her. And still I was feeling like, there's got to be something more. I'm not getting this. I'm not getting my life, as Rachel was saying, with more ease and flow. And it was too hard. You know, it was struggle, struggle, struggle. It was struggle to feel good. That's the main thing. And so I kind of just threw that out to the universe. I just said, help, I need something new. What is it? And a friend who had been in this meditation group, unbeknownst to me, had sent me a pamphlet from Abraham Hicks, and it came the next day. And so then I started going to their workshops, and Eva was often there, and one time Robin was there, and I met Robin. And shortly at one of those workshops, Eva and I and some other people were sitting around at lunch, and somebody said to Eva, Eva, you could channel Abraham. And she kind of looked around and, you know, with this look on her face, and I said, no, she can't. That belongs to Esther. Abraham belongs to Esther. And so we all got up and left, and I thought later, why did I say that? And I was chastising myself for saying that. Well, come to find out, Eva was not liking the idea either, but for a different reason, that she did not want to channel, and was just not going to go there. And then not long after I finished the courses I was taking with her, she announced that she indeed had been channeling. And she sent me an email about a call that Robin and Nina were having in this, I don't even know if it was called the Law of Attraction Club yet then. I guess it was. And so I got on this call, and I heard Nina channeling, and I just was in tears. And so I went to the first workshop they had, a live one, and then I went to the second one. And by the second one, I had started channeling a bit. And then Robin said to me one day, will you teach this course? And I went, yikes. And so I started teaching what was called Shift Happens at the time. We called it Shift Happens, which became Create Your Life. And he said, I need someone to do the Wednesday call. Do you want to do it? You don't have to, but do you want to? And so that's when everything started to really expand. And it's just been such a joy to really, from channeling, to really expand into more and more sense of well-being, more and more sense of letting go of old stuff and old habits, more and more joy and love for other people. You know, it's just been fantastic. So I think I will give it back to you on that note, Robin.
Good. Yes, it just brings to mind how I mean, Eva said she was never going to channel, and as Mary Beth has mentioned. And when we had all these people coming to us for this story, as I recounted earlier, and we had different people saying different things, and Tara said, yes, well, of course, you know, that's their story and that's their belief system, so that's what that's what they're describing. And we said, then we had a lot of people coming to us saying, you know, I think I'm starting to channel too. And that wasn't in the plan, because we were, you know, planning on having one channel and one set of Q&A and so on. So once again, our plans got turned upside down, and we sort of went to Tara and said, what's going on here? Are we the only people are we attracting everybody on the planet that wants to channel, or is everybody going to channel? And they said yes, and you too, Robin, will channel. And my reaction was a bit like Eva's. So I said, me? No way. Channeling? That doesn't appear in my future. But they were right. And in fact, you know, channeling has become, of course, a part of the way in which we discover here about everything, part of the way in which we bounce off those entities that have a different perspective than we do. And it is as natural and normal as having breakfast. In fact, everybody, in a sense, channels, because everybody has a connection to their, whatever you choose to call it, higher self, inner being, whatever. And channeling is, and we'll get into this in more detail as we go down the track. In fact, we'll have one of these sessions on what the nature of channeling is and so on. But suffice to say, it's as I said, as normal and natural as having breakfast. Everybody can, and it's in fact, when you get to understand what it is, it's as normal as anything else in your life. And in fact, it gets to the point where not channeling is the exception, because it's the odd thing out. Because once you've established that connection, then it opens you up to a world of possibilities that you don't otherwise have. And my original idea about channeling was it was just a way for some people to bring through some knowledge that we couldn't easily get our hands on. So it was more of a Q&A thing. What we've discovered, of course, that channeling by itself is a way of discovering who you are, getting in touch with who you are. And so it's part of everything that we do now. So let's get on to then the channeling. I'm going to give Tara a chance to come through here, and so give me a minute, and I'm going to get into where we go. And we welcome you all. It is a joy to be able to interact with you, intersect with you, as we say, because that is really what it is. We are in your world because we are a match to you, and you are in our world because you are a match to us. And so it is with great pleasure that we are here with you in this meeting, this little adventure, as this one calls it. So let us talk about what we have come to describe within this community as the absolutes. And that is those things that exist at the foundation of everything. These things are the nature of who you are and what you are, and they cannot be changed, for it is the essential nature of you. And so you are you. You are this consciousness that you perceive as this thinking being. You exist because that consciousness that is you is a part of the universal consciousness. If you prefer other names for that, you're a part of God, or all that is, or source, or everything. And then there is no separation in all of that, and yet there is, in a sense, this individual conscious entity that is you. and you have intentions that are yours, and you make choices that are yours. In fact, it is those very intentions that define who you are, that carve you, if you like, out of the clay of all that is, that make you what you are, that create you. So here you are part of that, and that you cannot choose not to be, because that is the essential nature of you. And then as long as there is this individuation, these seemingly different pieces of it all, the law of attraction applies. It is the organizing principle of everything. And in a way, it's not a good way of describing it, calling it the law of attraction, because it is simply the principle of the way experience is had. It is the way experience flows to you. It is just the underlying principle of everything, that like attracts like. And as long as there is individuation and you perceive yourself to be a conscious entity that is somewhat separate, or somewhat different, if you like, rather than separate from those other ones, from us, then you will attract into your experience, into what you perceive as your world, that which is a match to everything that you are choosing to believe, choosing to know. And so the law of attraction, if you like, is the great orchestrator. It is infinite resource that supplies to you that which you are attracting into your experience. And those two things are things over which you have no choice. That is the way things are. But the number three, if you like, on this list of absolutes is that everything else is a choice. Except for 1 and 2, you are always at choice in everything. Everything. So let's talk a little bit about the law of attraction in a little more detail. And we've used these words before, and each time we repeat them, they vary a little, but essentially these are the pieces that we have now come to use to describe this universal flow, if you will. You attract into your world, unique to you, wanted or unwanted, second by second, the sum of your conscious and subconscious expectations. There's nothing you cannot be, do, or have. There's nothing physical or non-physical that you cannot change. You create it all by what you choose to believe. You can change any of it by making new choices. And all of our conversations, of course, about all of this are many and varied. All the questions that you have are many and varied, and they all deal with perhaps the ways in which you can change it by making new choices, and how easy or difficult those choices are to make, and how therefore easy or difficult it is to slide into different versions of reality, to step into new versions of the world. But this is the law of attraction. And these words are perhaps the best way we've come to describe it. And we want you to understand that it is not just one of those universal laws of the cosmos. It is the law of the cosmos. It is the fundamental principle of all. And for those that are confused about the unique to you part, in other words, if you are locked into a vision of the world that you are in, that seems to be a shared world, that seems to be a continuous world, that seems to have had a past that you read in your history books, that seems to have solidarity to it and continuity to it, and here you are on it and having to deal with the people that are in it, and deal with the world and the way it and the things happen within it and the way it moves and changes. If you are locked into that view of the world, then you are always going to be in a place of wondering a little about how much power you really have to change everything. And we want to come back to that fundamental truth of it all, and that is you have the power to change everything because it is your world. There is not one version of the world. It is your world. And within this world, you have the choices. You are the one making the choices about everything. And so here is the point upon which many people founder, and they start watering the law of attraction down until it becomes nothing more than a good idea about positive thinking. And we want you to know you are much more than that, and it is much more than that. You are the author of the screenplay that is the movie of your life. And these other characters in your movie are simply following your screenplay, even as different versions of you are following their screenplay in their movie, perhaps. And so here you are. Beyond those absolutes, everything is a story. It's your story, and it's chosen by you. No story is good or bad, better or worse, more worthy or less worthy. These are human judgments. There is just your story. Nothing is preordained. You are at choice at all times. To the extent that other conscious entities are a match to you, they will appear at times to be sharing your story and be a part of your experience. You see, when we say everything is a story, is your story, immediately we see you putting boundaries around that. You say, well, okay, I can see within this thing that I have the power to change the way things are. But we want you to know that everything means everything. And that is, if you like, everything about this world that you know is your story. And it's your story and you can change it. Everything about the non-physical world is your story. Your story about us, if you will, is your story and you can change it. Everything about you and your existence is your story. Whether you die and how you die and what happens when you die is your story. You see? It is all part of what you are creating in your experience. And so we say all this so that you will understand the power that you have. You understand that it is, after all, you who is in charge. And so, of course, now we get to the place where you say, well, if I'm in charge and I have choices, how do I make those choices? And we say the same way you have always made those choices. You choose what to believe. And you say, but there's some things that I just plain know. And we say there is nothing you just plain know. There are only the choices you've made about what to believe, and that covers everything. So it is your prerogative to make new choices. And none of those choices you've made in the past can have any effect on your present or your future unless you give those choices the power to do so. In other words, if you say, this is what has happened in my life, this is what happened last year, this is what happened last month, this is what happened yesterday, this is what happened this morning, and therefore today is going to be this way, and tomorrow is going to be this way, and so on. And we say, nothing in your past has any power whatsoever to create in your present or your future unless you give it the power to do so by saying, this happened and therefore this must inevitably follow. Nothing must inevitably follow unless you tell it that's what you want to believe is going to follow, and therefore it will. And so here we are on this journey together here, and it is our pleasure, of course, to be with you on this journey. It is our great pleasure to be a part of this. You have attracted us into your experience, even as we have attracted you into ours. We are not so different from you as you might imagine. You think that we are some perhaps disembodied spirit somewhere, and we are therefore on a very different plane than you are. And we will go into more of this perhaps as we move through down the track here. But we would say we are 99.9% the same, you and us. You are a consciousness, we are a consciousness. We have just chosen a different game to play. And our game, of course, involves intersecting with you in your game, even as your game, to the extent that you are in this call, or to the extent that you choose to reach out to us in your thoughts and in your mind and in your vibrational communication, we become a part of you and your story. But always it is your story. And we are here to dance with you if that is your choice. We are here to help you from our perspective to understand that which we understand. And we see things, of course, less from a physical space-time perspective than you do. Therefore, what we contribute will be something different than you will contribute. But as we have said before, it is a dance we have together, and it is a process of discovery that we have together. It is a process of growth as we experience each other and bounce off each other and discuss things with each other. And so here we are. And so it is our great pleasure to be with you and a part of your experience and answering your questions. So there we are. We have talked about the fundamentals, and we have talked about the absolutes, and we have talked about who you are, what you are doing here, and how you create the life you want. And now, of course, there will be, of course, the details of it all. How does it all work? How do I do this? How can I do this? And as we said, we are here to help you discover who you are and what power you have. We are not here to tell you about your story, because you are the expert in your story. So if you have questions about the nature of things and how you might create and how you might be in touch with that inner part of you, and how you might therefore carve out of this clay of all that is, that which you seek, that which is joyful to you, how you might move within this world and create different things, that we will engage with you and have great fun in the discussion of it. What we cannot answer, of course, is your stories about your world, because that is your creation. We can say, here's what we would see as a part of a one version of your world, but we cannot answer the story that you are creating. You are the expert in that. And everything you know about your world, have chosen to believe, is the way the world is. Nothing exists in that world except what you know about it. And that sounds sort of silly, doesn't it? Because you make so-called new discoveries every day about what is in your world. You read about scientific discovery. You read about the way this has progressed and this has progressed. And in a sense, that is discovery about your world. But it is, if we might describe it a little better than that, perhaps, it is a filling in of some of the details in some of the spaces that you have allowed in this map, this tapestry of yours. And nothing can happen except lies within that map, within those boundaries that you have set. And so what you might call discoveries about your world, things that you learn about your world, are in fact you making decisions about the way the world is. And you are moving the boundaries around. You are narrowing some things down, you are expanding some things, but ultimately it is all your choice about what to believe. And there's some things you know that are impossible in your world, and therefore they are. But we promise you they are only impossible because you have declared that they are. You know that the sun will not traverse the sky from west to east. It will always be from east to west. You know that the day will be 24 hours long, and the earth will not slow down at some point, and you'll have longer days or shorter days and so on. It's not possible. And the reason it's not possible is because you have chosen to believe that this is the way things are. But you have left many of those stories unfilled, you see. You have left much of the colouring book uncoloured in. And as you experience the world and hear different things, they are flowing into your world as a part of what you attract. But they always lie within the boundaries of your world. And you may choose to believe what you hear or not choose to believe what you hear. And as you do choose, so the world conforms. And if you choose to believe things are a certain way, then they are. And your story, of course, is unique to you. There's no two of you have the same story. There's no two of you live in the same world. Once again, we understand the degree to which this sounds preposterous even. But if you understand the true nature of who you are, the miracle of this world is that it gives the illusion of continuity and solidarity and joint ownership, if you will, joint participation. And of course, that is the way it is for the nature of what you have chosen here. And isn't it fun to interact with those people within the boundaries you have set and discover new things, if you will, and head in certain directions and experience things, some wanted and some not wanted, and allow yourself then to say, what is it that I truly want here? What is it that I truly want? And make new decisions and new discoveries. And you are not confined in any way to anything. You can make those new discoveries and new choices in any realm, in any place that you choose. And for many of you, of course, you are operating within a certain rule of the world, within a certain rules of the game, and you are quite happy to do so. And so your requests, your choices, your desires will be to make things move within the shape of this game. To make minor things happen, perhaps. You would call them minor. But we say there is nothing minor and nothing major. The things that you wish to create are going to be yours to create, whether they be small or large, whether they be a castle or a button, whether they be a dinner on the table or a new dimension in space. It is all the same, you see. It is the same mechanism. And while this might be mind-boggling, we present this to you in order that you might understand the enormity of who you are. And that there is no limit to this law of attraction thing. There are no qualifications to it. There is no need to water it down. There is just a need to understand the power of it. Just a need to understand the degree to which it is the orchestrator of everything that you desire. It is the orchestrator of everything that you have chosen to believe. In the movie of your life on Earth, it is, if you like, the casting director that scurries around and produces the people that will mix with you. And it is the props manager who runs around and constructs the world around you in order that you may experience it. And it all happens instantaneously and in flowing from second to second, and it happens exactly in line with your tapestry of expectations. And so it is a vast thing, is it not, when you experience it from that perspective. It is not some simple law and one of many other laws that exist. It is the underlying nature of who you are. And the understanding of that is key. The understanding of that is a part of the process of learning here. It is a part of the process of knowing the extent to which you can participate here. For when you entered this game, when you entered this life experience, it was a choice. And fundamentally, you came here to experience creating from this different perspective. This, if you like, space-time perspective, and you focus your consciousness down into this place, as you do any time when you play a game, you focus your consciousness within the bounds of the game. When you play checkers or you play chess, you are focusing yourself on a two-dimensional space and moving things around. And without doing that, you couldn't play the game. You couldn't participate in that reality. And so here you are focused down into this, if you like, three-dimensional reality. And you are moving things around and you are playing the game. You are here experiencing life and experiencing things, experiencing everything from this perspective. That is your choice. You chose to do this. You can choose at any time to do something else, but here you are and you are doing this. And we are here simply to hold your hand in this process, if it is your desire that we communicate and intersect in this way. And so here we are, dancing together, are we not? We would invite those of you who are live with us on this call, if you have questions or comments or anything to add to this at this point, to unmute yourselves and to speak. And we will be here to intersect and interact with you.
Well, this is Giora.
Hi, Giora.
Hey. It's interesting from all the things that you said. I heard several times. But what sticks in my mind is most interesting suddenly, out of all the things. And in this case, it was the picture of all that we allow to ourselves to experience as reality that exists already in our, let's say, blueprint. And there, when we leave spaces, unfilled spaces for these discoveries. And I started to think, so what happens if we fill out all the empty spaces? There is no contrast anymore, and we become source.
Yes.
Mm.
Indeed. And between that place, Giora, and the place you perhaps find yourself in right now, there's an infinity of intermediate places.
Mm.
And Giora, you of course channel, as we all do in effect, and you are already moving in that process. Of course, the boundaries around a little, are you not? You're already stepping beyond the apparent limitations of this space-time existence in that small way, and as we are doing here in this small way. But when you understand that there is no limit to that which you can choose, it is limited only by your imagination. And we promise you that we are a part of your imagination, and therefore it is not limited to anything.
Mm.
And so, yes, can you move a mountain on this space-time existence you call Earth? Of course you can. Can you step from a different past? And this sounds like nonsense once again, because your future is variable, but your past is fixed, surely. And we say, no, it is all a game, it is all your choice. How will it end is your choice. When will it end is your choice. Can I move to another dimension at the same time as I am in this one and participate in both at the same time consciously? And we say it is all a choice, you see. You are shaping everything. Now, none of what we're proposing is we are suggesting as things you would want to do. We are really just suggesting here that, proposing to you, and helping you to understand that there is no limit here, you see. and you have all assumed that you will perhaps physically get old and physically die. And that is one story, if you like, one part of the story about your existence, and perhaps it's a part of the story that many of you, all of you on this call, share. But that is simply because you're in a world of matching intentions and matching beliefs. And those were choices, you see. So you could step into a world in which you grow younger. You could step into a world in which death is something quite different than you imagine it. I mean, there are already stories about ascension, are there not, of the way in which you ascend without the physical body doing something like death. And those are just stories, but they are just one of an infinite number of possibilities open to you. And we understand for some that this is somewhat mind-boggling, because we are opening up, if you like, a range of possibilities that you may never have considered. And yet, if you are like this one and others in this community, you have come to this place because you want to know how it works. And it gives you a certain confidence then to know the way in which the universe is constructed, the way in which you are constructed, and the rules that govern all of this. And that confidence allows you to step perhaps a little more sure-footedly into different places. It allows you to understand the degree to which you can move things around. And of course, we're always having great fun with you in any of these choices that you make. But yes, Giora, thank you.
Okay, thank you.
So, we have had an adventure here this morning, have we not? It is interesting that this technology that you have has opened up some new contrast in this one's existence. And we are participating with him in this, and we are watching with great interest how this will unfold. And we would say in closing here, from us to you, that we have enjoyed this interaction immensely, and we look forward to our future intersections with you. And for now, just remember that there is great love here for you, and we are complete.
Thank you, everybody, for coming.
Well, that was an adventure, wasn't it?
Yes, it was. Maybe we shouldn't decide it's going to be an adventure.
Well, maybe we shouldn't. Yes.
So funny. Oh.
Okay. All right, everybody, thanks, and we'll catch up with you soon. We'll be doing another one of these next week, and we'll see if we can get this rocking along a little more smoothly here and have great fun. So thanks.
Thanks, everyone. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Thanks, everybody. Bye.
It was wonderful.